Neoplanet S.
And here we go. Game number 2, Neoplanet S, ViBE versus Scarlett. The red Zerg player spawning in the lower left-hand corner of the map is leading 1-0. She is Scarlett. And up in the top right, Scarlett's opponent needs to make something happen here. The blue Zerg, Root ViBE. Now, Scarlett still plays for Acer, right?
Yes.
Okay, wanted to be completely sure.
That's correct, man. Nothing changed. Still representing that green jersey.
Picked up by Acer, went and played Axiom Acer in Korea for a period of time. As far as I know, is back in Canada now.
Those boys did pretty well. They're actually still in the GSTL. I think they're playing either one of these nights. You saw Genius going on a rampage. GSTL is fun, man. Like, I didn't follow the regular season too closely because I was caught up with Pro League, but the playoffs, you can't skip the playoffs. No matter what sport it is, like anywhere in the world, it's just like, all right, I've never watched baseball, but here we go, it's playoffs.
World Series.
It's just an excuse to drink beers and eat wings. I love it.
That's what the Super Bowl is for most Americans.
And me. Well, I'm almost American now, right, man?
Practically. I don't know, you're talking about buying a European car, though, so
yeah,
unless you're buying a Corvette or a Dodge Ram.
Should get a muscle car. Just stand in front of the traffic like all day.
Exactly. Ford Mustang.
Oh, yes. Scarlett is, of course, the red Zerg in the left bottom side of the map, like Ben mentioned before. So far, the openings are exactly identical. We spoke a little bit about Scarlett's previous run in WCS. Made it to the round of 16 last season. Unfortunately, didn't make it to the final 8. ViBE was part of WCS America Season 1 as well.
Yep.
He was able to defeat the Ognis, but he lost against Snoot in the STC. Snoot, of course, one of the guys who did go on all the way to make it to the offline part. Unfortunately, yeah, ViBE didn't go that far. Snoot and the STC is a very tough group, though, but if you look at this one, this might even be tougher. Scarlett, Hero, and Oz, that's just a monster group.
And, of course, both these players with excellent runs in the first ever WCS. ViBE managing to win the America crown, Scarlett winning the Canada crown, and the two of them finishing first and second in the Continental, North America final, which is very impressive.
Who did ViBE beat in the American final back then?
Oh man, you're gonna put me on the spot.
Wasn't that like a really Daisuke or something?
He went very deep in the tournament. State went fairly deep, but not in the finals.
You were there. You casted it.
I know.
I really think it was Daisuke.
I think you might be right.
I'm always right. I might have been wrong. So both players won their big tournament as well in the final, playing as ZVZ, because Scarlett defeated Ostoji. I remember that because I casted it.
Right.
Ostoji representing Quantic these days.
I think the Ognis did pretty well in America as well, correct?
I don't think he went that far.
Well, long time ago. Back to the game at hand, we've had, as Kevin pointed out already, pretty identical openings.
Oh, what was the Protoss player that also went to China?
State?
No, the other one. I know State was there. It was later caught up. Yeah, I think he went far, no?
Yeah, he would have had to have gone far to have been qualified for China.
Yeah, it was those three. I think it was like Inter, Daisuke, and ViBE back then in WCS America. A long time ago, but definitely not forgotten, as of course. You carry that crown with pride. So awesome to say in your resume, once upon a time, I was the best of America.
Or even perhaps better, I was the first ever American champion.
35 drones on either side, or well, 34 on the side of ViBE, but it's very close. The attack was a little bit quicker though for ViBE this game.
Yep, a nice fast layer. Both these players going right up to layer pretty quickly. The big difference here being that Scarlett's gotten the Roach Warren and the +1 upgrade. ViBE looks like he's rushing to Muta.
Why do you think that Scarlett just killed the tumor?
Maybe it was blocking a building?
Interesting. Or maybe she was worried that she was later on gonna attack move on it, like the neutral supply depot.
Perhaps. Maybe it was a misclick?
No, Scarlett doesn't misclick. ViBE is gonna drop the Spire once more, so it's a very quick Spire for ViBE this time. He tried to pull it off in the previous game, but that was of course very, very different. Scarlett once more, been getting a few Roach out already, but this is not a double evolution chamber build, at least not yet.
She's going for a fast +1 Roach timing. We should see Roach speed start pretty soon as well. Or no, she's not. She's going to just get +1 and take a third.
Then I kind of like ViBE's position so far, Ben, because if ViBE can just buy enough time for himself that he doesn't somehow lose a crazy amount of drones because there are so many roaches that his Mutalisk are not able to deal with it, I think he's going to be able to get quite a bit of map control with his Mutalisk. Now, of course, Mutalists are not as dominant in this matchup as they once upon a time were. Ever since the Spore Crawler got like Ultra Super Laser Pacific Rim Beam Plasma Cannon.
Super Spore is a big deal for players that are going Muta. Also, we've got to keep in mind that Scarlett with a fast +1 can get some pretty scary Hydras out quite quickly. ViBE Spire is finishing up.
ViBE still had a work lead as well, even though it's just 4 drones. It's been like this for quite a while right now, and it definitely adds up. There's a lot of roaches right now. In the start, I just thought it was a couple of roaches. This is going to be 18 roaches, so then I do actually think that ViBE is going to be forced to keep his units defensively for a little while. This run-by is not going to work. Scarlett with 6 Spider Sense over here. She's just going to be able to feel it coming somehow.
Yeah. This is what I mean, man. Scarlett just truly gets it, truly understands the flow of the game. ViBE sees these roaches coming, and can he possibly defend this? I'm not convinced that he can. This is a ton of roaches. ViBE on his production tab, we can see building more mutas, building more Zerglings. He's got to be able to buy himself time for that spine crawler to do work, for his extra lings to pop.
It's 18 roaches right now, Ben. 6 more on the way, and sure, these mutas, once upon a time, they might be able to clean this up. But, well, actually, with those links blocking a little bit, the spine crawler dealing quite a bit of additional damage.
This is the perfect place to fight. ViBE's doing a pretty good job of this, and actually, really good, he will shut down the push from Scarlett. Now a couple of drones are going to end up falling, but that's a very nice defense from ViBE, and it really all comes down to those lings just hatching at the perfect time and allowing that spine crawler to do so much work.
No roaches even made it up to the main base. I thought I saw a couple of them passing by, but that didn't even happen. This really wasn't all that bad, taking a look at the units lost to tap. Only 4 drones lost for ViBE.
Yep, against 18 roaches. That's a great trade. ViBE will make that trade all day, every day, and now lings can attack that third base. Scarlett has no way to defend this. She just lost her entire fighting army.
ViBE's going to be able to pick up perhaps 1 or 2 overlords as well, even though there are a lot of queens over here with transfuse, and then we do see 1 or 2 transfuses going down.
That's cute.
But this hatchery is going to fall. This means that ViBE is still on 3 bases, and you could say safely uncontested for a long time now as well, because there's no way that Scarlett wants to march across the map with just 5 or 6 Hydras, because then if ViBE gets enough Mutalisk and he just picks those up, then he's going to be able to pick up everything.
Now the next question is, how does ViBE follow this up? He's trying to get his roach upgrades now, starting +1, starting roach speed. So he's going to be trying to transition out of the Muta.
He's 13 drones ahead right now. That's so massive.
Scarlett, in the meanwhile, is rounding out her own army, trying to get to a point where she can fight the Mutalisks, as well as take back some of this map control that she's lost. 57 drones to 45 drones. ViBE in a phenomenal position. I
really like this as well. ViBE realizing that he's playing as Roach Hydra, so in that case, Speed Crab is actually, or Cruise Thread. Wow, Speed Crab. What is that? Cruise Thread is
actually. Queens are doing right now.
Cruise Thread is actually very important, of course, to make this army so much more mobile. But ViBE picking up a couple of those Cryptomers with his Zerglings and an Overseer as well, that's very smart. Sometimes Overlords do it too.
122 supply for ViBE over 105 of Scarlett's supply. These queens are very scary, and Scarlett's got substantially better upgrades. +2 is going to be done for Scarlett, so in a fight of Roach versus Roach, or Roach versus Roach Hydra...
But ViBE is going to have so many units though, Ben. He has like 4 times the amount of Roaches that Scarlett has right now, and sure, Hydras are good, but if Roaches can get right in the thick of things, they are just as good.
But Queens absorb so much damage. Their effective health is so much higher than what you might expect because of transfusion. Now, if Scarlett's not on the ball with those transfuses, then Queens. But if she messes up with a transfusion, then yeah, ViBE's gonna crush. But if Scarlett manages to transfuse well,
I love this so much though by ViBE. He just keeps trying to pick up those Cryptomers, and at the same time, he's gonna be able to force the cancel on this hatchery once more. At the minimal cost, he's gonna lose perhaps 1 or 2.
One.
Actually, I thought there wasn't. Never mind. Yeah, I was like, am I crazy? Did I see an Infestor in the mix? I did see an Infestor. So if this army would have somehow caught up this army and land 1 Fongo, that could have got really nasty. But that is not the case. And not a great move by ViBE. Just excellent army movement all around the map, being active with 2 groups at once. Something that looks perhaps easy, but it's also hard to properly execute, because before you know it, you make that one fatal right click and your army runs around the wrong side of Neoplanet Death and you lose everything.
Now, what ViBE has essentially done here is force Scarlett to go for a big 2-base all-in, and Scarlett doesn't really want to engage off creep. She's got to wait for those overlords, or queens rather, to drop more tumors and get into position.
Oh, we only have 3 infestors, man, and that's a missed fungal. Missed fungals are never good, but if you only have 3 infestors in your army, it is very not good.
Actually, I'm completely wrong. Scarlett doesn't want to fight at all. She's once again going to drop that 3rd base, and she's saying, okay, ViBE, you're giving me time, so I'm going to try and take advantage of this, producing as many units as she can, trying to establish that expansion, and again, missing another fungal, Kev.
That's so massive, and you only have 4 infestors right now, but still, 2 fungals is basically half the fungals that you have. Missing 2 of them already. It's just a ridiculous amount of roaches right now for ViBE. 37 roaches against 26. ViBE's upgrades are 1-0. +2 is almost done. I guess ViBE is just waiting for that, and then he's going to push the issue. He's researching Hydra speed as well, but this is just a massive army from ViBE.
Again,
yeah, sure,
he will
queens
be able
are
to
good.
deny this expansion, but it certainly looks like ViBE has the overwhelming fighting strength. Oh, that's a pretty good fungal, catching a few roaches. That's just free damage right now. And here comes Scarlett. She is going to push the issue. ViBE's going to engage as well. Another good fungal. And it's all about the spell casting. Transfuse and fungal and Hydra's in the back. It's a pretty good engagement for Scarlett. Oh man, but ViBE has so many more units.
There's still a lot of transfusions. Scarlett is of course doing really well. I think Scarlett might actually be able to survive just for now, certainly with the reinforcements. But look at the production tab. Sure, ViBE didn't trade in the most effective way possible over here, but there are 30 additional roaches for him on the way. He picked up this hatchery again during all that. These Hydras are kind of lost.
I cannot believe Scarlett's ability to win these fights when she's been down a base for the entire game.
That's true.
It just blows my mind.
And that was actually positioning a couple of great fungals and a ridiculous amount of queens. I mean, you pointed out before, queens are not only good in absorbing damage, but when you have 8-9 transfusions, that basically means that you have 15 additional units in the fight.
Yeah, and it was kind of proven there. Reestablishing her creep spread as well, but ViBE not going to have none of that. Scarlett forced to retreat in a big way, and can she take another favorable fight?
Oh, Infestor's a little bit out of position there as well. They get picked up immediately. ViBE is going to push the issue right now. And even if Scarlett survives over here, it's starting to look really, really grim for the Canadian Zerg
I think that might be it already. ViBE just knowing that all he has to do at this point is lean on Scarlett, and she will eventually crumble. Once again, narrowly Scarlett defends, but she's got no economy to fall back on. It's so obvious in the supplies. 100 supply to 150 supply. Multi-pronged aggression to one focal defensive point. ViBE's going to try to come right through this little gap, but it's not going to happen, man.
ViBE looked really good, though, throughout this entire game. Of course, you could say that he was very far ahead ever since he defeated that first roach push. That was 18 roaches, which, well, at the end of the day, barely did anything. 18 roaches for 4 drones is not a trade you want to make on any given day. But still, the rest of the game, I think ViBE played it out flawlessly.
Yeah, he's played phenomenally. He did, in a small way, win the build order war. But it was ultimately all down to the execution. Had he even engaged differently in that first big fight against the roaches, we might be looking at a different outcome here. But he did it all correctly. Now he's just going to contain and starve Scarlett out. He's denied that expansion for like the 4th time this game.
Scarlett still has 15 Hydras, 12 roaches, but as you mentioned several times already, there's just no economy to fall back on. There's absolutely zero map control. There are a few creep tumors out, and all that those creep tumors do right now is tell you that you're in a very, very bad scenario. Of course, ViBE doesn't want to throw this away. He doesn't want to make the throw of the century. You never... Oh, that's a nice little fungal there.
Yeah, super cute fungal. Using the vision of the creep tumors. And we'll get a couple of roach kills, but... I mean...
softens them up a little bit as well.
It's still such an impossible situation. I love the fighting spirit here of Scarlett, not willing to give an inch. Oh, ViBE. Gonna bring up the spine crawlers.
Oh, you might as well, no?
Exactly.
It is so hard to engage in this army, though. Like, if the moment you clump up your army over here, everything gets fungal. Sure, you might have 30-40 supply advantage, but you're still going to lose. But the problem is that Scarlett's probably going to be mined out within a minute or two. In the main, it's already, you can see Scarlett is completely mined out, and even her natural is running very, very thin.
Now, this having been said, if ViBE makes just the worst engagement ever and loses his army, there is always this weird possibility in ZVZ that, oh gosh, I've taken a bad fight, and then it sort of snowballs from there where you just can't seem to get your reinforcements out in time. I don't see that happening in a million years.
I really kind of like what ViBE is doing now as well, because instead of like him being the player that's forced to take a bad engagement if he wants to finish his game, he's making it very hard on Scarlett, and you say like, hey, you're going to be the one who's going to take a very bad engagement into my spine crawlers and my superior concave, because I don't have to attack you, I have complete map control.
Yeah.
You know what would be really cool if Scarlett gets like a Nidus network? And
that would be crazy. But here it is, the final fight, the big engagement, clearly a superior concave for ViBE. Spine's going to finish up as well, and this is just an unwinnable fight for Scarlett.
Are you sure, man?
I'm positive. Although ViBE is really making it easy, or harder on himself than it has to be. He's only about half of his army is fighting.
I mean, those queens are actually really good. Those Hydras from Scarlett are dealing a ridiculous amount of damage. 2-2 upgrades are superior to the 2-1 upgrades of ViBE. Scarlett is actually going to win this fight, which is just absolutely ridiculous. But the production tab once more tells the story. 15 additional roaches on the map. This would be one of the most ridiculous victories of all time if this would somehow be possible. But
what's the army supply? It's 88 to 46. So Scarlett still with just half the fight. Man, how frustrating it's got to be for poor ViBE. He's like, come on, just die already. Yeah. Scarlett just refusing to relent. Huge fungal lands.
I mean, something funny, man. It's like a cockroach.
Oh, I see what you did there.
So many roaches.
But, you know, it's still just this never-ending stream of units from ViBE. There's the good games. Scarlett finally concedes defeat, and ViBE manages to tie up the series at 1 each.